Welcome back to another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm Susie Selleck, and today we are at St. John Lutheran Church in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and I'm with Pastor Matthew Boyer. Pastor Matt, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So, can you tell me a little bit about just the original, this is the original structure that we're standing in?
It is not
It is
actually.
not. Okay.
Well, in 1865, the German Evangelical Lutheran Church of Dearborn County formed, signing Articles of Confederation to begin the work of organizing a Lutheran community here in Lawrenceburg. And that was 1865, but it wasn't actually until 1869 that they organized the congregation. In 1865, they did purchase the land. Okay. It was about 6 acres. Just over 6 acres, and the original building was on the northwest corner of the property, which is right by the cemetery.
Oh, okay.
It was the church building with an attached parsonage, and in 1875 there was a school building also finished, all in that corner of the property. In 1890, due to the expansion of the congregation, they needed to build a bigger church. Okay. And that's when this building we are now in was built in 1890.
In 1890. Okay. So it was start to finish 1890?
Mm-hmm. 1957, they started work on the education building, which you came in. Yep. Which was originally 2 separate buildings. And then 2003, with an addition, the education building and the sanctuary were kind of attached. Okay. And people to this day call that hallway the breezeway because it used to be like a porch. It was outside. Now the school, interestingly, people would be taken out, the kids would be taken out of public school when they hit confirmation age, so usually around 7th grade or so. Okay. And they would be at school here all day for 2 years. And then after confirmation, they would either go back to public school or not go back to school and end up on the farm or the family business or whatever.
Matt, can you tell us a little bit about the history? There's people that make up a church community. Talk a little bit about some of the people that have stood out historically.
Yes, so in 1869, when the congregation actually formed, it was under the guidance of a Reverend Christian Bussey, who was a neighboring pastor. He was called to St. Stephen's Church in Manchester. And the Bussey remains a big name in the area. Katie Moulter was the first baptism. And she's important in the life of this congregation, not just because she was the first baptism. She actually lived to be 100.
Oh, cool.
So she's still remembered by living members, which is really kind of cool. And I've been told that at 92, she would still walk to church. Yeah.
What a woman.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
so,
cool.
And the neat thing as a pastor is in our record book that we record deaths and baptisms, I am still in the original ledger. So,
wow.
Yeah, so when I preside at a baptism, that goes in the same book that Miss Malta did. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
We are very attached to our history here.
And as well you should be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so from history, kind of moving into today, what is the connection with the community? How does this church play an integral role with Lawrenceburg?
Well, throughout our history, we've had, at a couple times throughout our history, we've had scouting ministries. So, and that's been important. So just the faith formation of our youth has always been important. We have recently rechartered. PAC 620 is now 3 years old and going strong with like 24 kids. Great. Covering the Manchester and in Lawrenceburg areas. We cover the hill too. And we have, we participate in High Hopes Cafe downtown Lawrenceburg at Hairmine Chapel. So we also do like a lot of food stands, and we're out in the community. We're also part of the Faith Response Network, which is a group of local churches throughout Dearborn County that work with the recovery community.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. How long have you been a part of that?
The Faith Response Network was actually just formed last year.
Okay.
Exactly a year ago. We had our first monthly prayer service last November.
What is your role here? And how how do you feel like you lead this church?
Well, I think a big part of my leadership is just equipping the saints, so to speak. I help people discover, what their calling is and what their gifts for ministry are. I jokingly tell people that it's my job to find them more work to do.
That's actually a pretty good job to have, I think, right?
Yes, it is.
Very good.
Yeah, well, a little more about our building and just and our property is our altar and our bell are both from the original church.
The altar and the bell are both from the original church?
Yes, and we still toll the bell whenever a member dies and every Sunday. So it's the same bell that Bel Air, this area is called Bel Air, has been hearing for almost 150 years.
And there's a statue on the altar.
Yes.
Correct. And but that came later.
That came later.
Okay.
The best I can tell is probably the 30s. And the pulpit is from the original church, too.
Pulpit's from the original.
I've seen pictures where there was no door behind it, but the pulpit itself is from the original building.
Pastor Matt, talk to us a little bit about these stained glass windows.
Well, the stained glass windows were put in for the 75th anniversary of the congregation in 1944.
Okay. And were they given in memory by different families?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In memory of members and family members. Yes.
With any structure, obviously, there's renovations that come to keep things, moving right along.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit just about like the change out with the doors.
Well, the door used to be, it was a big wooden door, two doors, but they were like the oak wood, big ones, big heavy ones.
Yeah.
And then when they made changes, getting ready for the 100th anniversary, the plated glass was installed.
That was brought in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's fun to look at these pictures and say, oh.
What it used to be.
Yeah, exactly.
What it is now.
Yeah. Now, we used to do an ice cream social that was known throughout Southeast Indiana, apparently. It was first the Luther League, which would have been the youth of the church and their parents, obviously.
Yeah.
And then it was picked up by the Women's Circle. This went strong just up until a couple years ago. It's kind of morphed into a German fest, which has grown every year. We have German music, German foods. So we've really started to rediscover some of our heritage.
That's great.
With this German fest.
And this is yearly now.
Yearly.
Just as the ice cream social was always yearly. Mm-hmm. The sport,
Every August, so we can't quite call it an Oktoberfest.
Okay, not quite, but August.
Mm-hmm.
That works.
Yes.
Do you still serve ice cream there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny you ask, because that's what people who've been around here for a long time say is, I hope there's still ice cream. So yes, there is still homemade ice cream.
Ice cream always makes homemade.
It's homemade, yeah.
Wow.
And still using the 5-gallon.
The churning.
Yes, that we've used here for a long time.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, another interesting piece that I don't think I've shared yet is that when they started to build the education building we have now in 1957, the name of the congregation changed from St. John's German Evangelical Lutheran Church to St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church of Bel Air.
Oh, okay.
And the literature says one reason for that change was to expedite financing, because one way to help that was to remove the German, sadly, from the name. Yes.
Okay, well, I guess all the more it's great that you guys have been digging into your past with the new morphed ice cream social, the August Fest.
The August Fest.
Yeah. Matt, tell me a little bit more about this Bel Air.
Well, Bel Air was what this neighborhood, if you will, was named. This part of Lawrenceburg was called Bel Air. And now I never hear it referenced as Bel Air except from Lutherans, because there are so many St. John Lutherans around that, you know, we are still distinguished as
Bel
Air, St. John Bel Air.
That does clear it up.
So, yes.
That clears it up. Thank you for watching another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm Susie, and today we've been in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and we've been talking with Pastor Matt about the history and the community and the congregation of the St. John Lutheran Church. So remember, travel slowly and stop often. Bye for now.